This video is to demonstrate for you a method of making homemade mayonnaise. I'm going to show you a recipe, and if you're familiar with making homemade mayonnaise already, this may be a slightly different method than you're used to. If you usually use a regular blender and are stuck drizzling the oil in at the end, this is a method that will allow you to save yourself that trouble, because we are going to use a stick blender, or as some people call it, an immersion blender. So you'll need one of these, and then also the container that comes with it usually, that allows you to put the stick down in there. So that's kind of the equipment that you're going to need. If you don't have a stick blender, I highly recommend them. They're also good for pureeing hot soups like broccoli soup, things like that, so you don't have to dump it into your blender when it's hot and then pour it back into the pan. You can use this blender to just whiz it up right in your pan. It works for potato soups, broccoli soups, any kind of boiled vegetables. This baby can handle them. If you don't have a blender and you're not going to get one, you can make this recipe in your regular blender as well, I'm sure. You'll just have to drizzle the olive oil in bit by bit after you mix all of the other ingredients together. But we are going to avoid that today. Let's get started. For this recipe, you're going to need 2 egg yolks, a tablespoon of lemon juice, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of a good sea salt, a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 1½ teaspoons of raw honey, and 1½ cups of a good cold pressed olive oil. So for starters here, we need our 2 egg yolks. Get these into the container here. I didn't give myself an extra bowl, so I guess we're just gonna... I don't usually drop my egg whites into the bowl with my eggshells in it, but I was not prepared. And I'm only making this video once, so you're getting whatever comes here. Alright, we've got our 2 egg yolks. Then we're going to add to that a tablespoon of lemon juice. Hopefully I have enough. I just grabbed a container that I have left over from a recipe I made last night. So, alright, maybe a little under, but close enough. A tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. A tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. I recommend Bragg brand because it's raw and unfiltered. 1 tablespoon of that. And we need 3/4 of a teaspoon of a good sea salt or Himalayan salt, some nice coarse unrefined salt. 3/4 of a teaspoon. So I've got a 1/4 teaspoon measure. 1, 2, 3. A teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I use Annie's Natural brand. It's one of the few brands that I've found that have minimal ingredients. On here we have distilled white vinegar from corn, mustard seed, sea salt, and cloves. That's it. You could also make your own homemade, which I'm going to try to tackle sometime soon. It's on my list of things to do, so stay tuned. A teaspoon of that. Then we need 1½ teaspoons of raw honey. Most mayonnaise you do see will have some kind of sweetener in it. Barb, who's a member of this site, gave me a great tip because I was complaining to her that my mayonnaise tastes like such a strong olive oil flavor. And she said if you put in some raw honey, it will kind of neutralize that strong olive oil taste, and it really does. So make sure you put the honey in there. And thanks, Barb. You are my hero. Alright, so I think we've got everything except for the oil. And I've already measured out 1.5 cups here. Pour that right in. Again, like I said, if you're using a standard blender, you won't be able to just dump your oil in like this. You'll have to kind of just hold your measuring cup while the blender is mixing everything together and just drizzle it in a steady stream. It's kind of a pain. So when I learned about using the stick blender, I was all over it. Alright, then you want to make sure that your egg kind of is settled to the bottom there. Because what we're going to do is stick the blender in all the way to the bottom, leave it touching the bottom of the container. I'm kind of explaining this now in case the blender is too loud while I'm doing it for you to hear me. I'm going to leave it touching the bottom and just kind of give it a few 2 or 3 second pulses until the ingredients start to come together. So there's just barely a little bit of olive oil mixing in. And then as it starts to firm up, I'll start lifting the stick blender here and there to get more and more of the olive oil mixed in. So it's still kind of like you're drizzling the olive oil in. You're mixing it in bit by bit, but without the pain of doing it. So here we go. Blender to the bottom and a few pulses. Oh, and just so you're not shocked, this mayonnaise will turn out yellow, just so you know. But you are avoiding a lot of things that they include in commercial brands, like soybean oil, natural flavors, and so on. Plus, you can have as many raw ingredients as you desire if you make your own. Okay, now I'm going to start going up and down. I probably could have sooner, but I didn't want to risk ruining it for the video. You can see how it's getting a lot thicker, hopefully. I'm not sure how this shows up on camera, but I'm lifting up and down, and there's actually quite a bit of resistance. Kind of feels like tapping, a blob of tapping in there. Okay, I didn't mention I'm not very skilled at this. This is only my second time trying it. It's kind of interesting here, but it'll stir up just fine. Just doesn't make for the most lovely video in the world, I guess. That's what you get with me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know that by now, right? Alright, that is really, really thick. We're going to see if we can salvage this with a spoon. That's what you want, right? Thick, spreadable mayonnaise. I know you're wondering, why would I do it this way? This seems like quite a pain too, doesn't it? I'm kind of wondering the same thing. But I really don't like drizzling that olive oil in. My arm gets tired. Call me a wuss, but the truth. Alright, so let's see. There you go. Thick, spreadable for sure, homemade mayonnaise.